Hi. Hi guys, how are you doing today? My name's Sean. I'm a 28-year-old iron worker. Um, Today we're going to talk a little bit about young males or just males in general, I think.
Yeah, like
Entering
normalizing therapy.
normalizing therapy, I like it. Um, so I've been in therapy now probably 9 months, pretty close to 9 months. Decided to go to therapy obviously when I was 27. Um, and I was dealing with a lot of issues before I finally decided to come have a conversation. I was severely depressed. I was stuck in a very toxic long-term relationship, and I was very unhappy with my home life, my work life, everything. So it took a lot to finally get in here and start trying to work through some of these issues. But my life has exponentially changed for the better since I did start therapy. So today I think we're just going to try to have a conversation and see how the beginning of that road kind of started out, I think.
Yeah. So, okay, how long were you contemplating therapy?
I had openly recommended therapy to numerous people in my life for years, thinking like, oh, you should probably go talk to somebody. It's really good to talk to somebody. Um, I never really had too much of a stigma about mental health and really, needing to work through some issues. Um, I say that, but on the flip side, I'd contemplated therapy on and off for probably 4 years
Okay.
before I finally took the plunge.
So that's interesting because I think that's a lot of people. I think a lot of people are not proactive,
Yeah, I
they're
agree.
reactive. So it's sort of like a rock bottom situation or a sense of hopelessness where you're like, okay, I gotta do something. But then that at that point, sometimes it's hard to motivate yourself to do something.
Yeah, I think once you get to that level, procrastination becomes like a reality. So, um, 1 minute you can be motivated to seek out help, and then it's like, okay, well, I'll make the phone call in half an hour, and then next thing you know, it's been 3 weeks.
Right.
Um, yeah, it took a little while for me to get here.
Well, because I get a lot of that, like, I get a lot of people, they'll message me and they're reaching out, but it takes forever to actually book that first appointment.
Well, it's a commitment.
Right.
Like it's a serious commitment, and I think in my situation there was a long time where in the back of my mind I knew I needed to talk to somebody. I knew there was some stuff that needed to be addressed, needed to be worked through. Um, but on the flip side, I was like, no, I'm good. I'm not that bad. And I tend to say that a lot. And typically, if I say I'm not that bad, I'm in pretty rough shape. Um, but yeah, I recommended therapy to my brother. I recommended therapy to a lot of people.
You prescribe therapy.
Yeah, I was like, you should probably talk to somebody. But I never really looked deep enough within myself to understand that, like, no, you can't just keep adding on the stress and adding on all these negative atmospheres in your life and expecting things to change for the better. You need to actively go out there and try to solve these issues and work through them, or at the very least, gain a better understanding of why you are the way you are, who you are as a person, what brings you joy, and those kind of things, I think go a really long way. I think knowledge is power in this situation, and if you can start to learn what may trigger you or anything along those lines, it really helps to kind of catch yourself before you fall down the rabbit hole.
Right.
And that's the beginning of change, in my opinion.
Exactly. So when you came, and I think what was it after? Was it the first session I gave you the book, or the
I
second?
believe it was the second session. So the first session, I remember showing up and like I was sweating profusely. I've dealt with a lot of social anxiety for a very long time. I didn't
Right.
know what to expect. So for me, a lot of the anxiety I deal with on a daily basis is all the lead up to something. Once I'm in the middle of it, it's never nearly as bad as my brain has twisted it to be.
So what made you come back? I guess.
Honestly, I was driving home and I'm not gonna lie, I almost felt high. I felt like
Wow.
there was an unbelievable weight lifted, and I mean, our first session was very interesting. Like, it was just an unload. Like, anything and everything that I could possibly think of in my brain just came spewing out of my mouth, and it was a massive stress relief. Um, and I think once I understood what verbalizing these emotions, or at least attempting to, could do for me, then it was kind of like, okay, like, this is something we need to actively pursue, and like, don't hold back. Like, if you're gonna do it, take it seriously. I think a lot of people think they can go talk to their therapist and their therapist is gonna fix them. No, I think a lot of it has to do with, like, they'll help guide you and they'll help ask the right questions, but you need to look within yourself and do that work on your own.
Right. Exactly. So then, okay, so I gave you the book, and in Sean's case, I wanted him, because it was pertinent to what he was going through at the present time, I wanted him to read the last chapter first and then work
Yes.
backwards.
Yeah.
So how was that?
I read the last chapter. Honestly, it was like you wrote the book for me, realistically.
I get that a lot.
Yeah, so like, it was very fitting. I actually read it and then put it down and then picked it back up again and reread it. And it was eye-opening, because it's really interesting when you get into that state of mind and you feel like nobody could possibly understand. Nobody knows where you really are. You don't even know how deep down you are in a lot of situations. And then you read something that's so perfectly fitting and you go, oh no, there's a lot of people out there that get it. There's a lot of people out there that are going through this. And it's like, well, let's do something about it.
And tell me that I got a kick out of Sean's ex-girlfriend actually, what did she call it?
A breakup guide. Yeah, so I left the book on the table. Like, it wasn't like I was trying to hide anything. It was just, it's like, it's there if you want to read it. And there was definitely, yeah, she picked it up and read it because I think she felt an energy change within me, or the relationship definitely started to drift towards ending after I read the book. I think that was definitely the beginning of an exit strategy. So she read it because she was like, okay, what obviously sparked the change, and then approached me with the, yeah, it's a breakup guide.
And I want to say that it is not a breakup guide. It's really, that's interesting because, especially that chapter, it had all to do with making sure that you were 100% happy within yourself prior to looking for a relationship.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was the biggest one, is too many people put the responsibility on their partner to make them happy.
Right.
And that's dooming your relationship to fail. It's too much stress on both of you. So in a perfect world, you want two people that are emotionally, mentally mature, able to have those conversations, and are happy on their own, that choose to be together.
And I find that's funny because as a society, I think we have it all wrong. Like we search for a lot of things. We don't look for that equal balance.
I would agree. Yeah.
And I think that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. I think in my case especially, like, I know that, you know, I spent a lot of time looking for something, hobbies. In my case, I drank a fair bit. Anything.
I was going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because like the vast difference. Well, they can't see you. Next time we'll try to do like a little bit of it live, but they can't see the transformation. But
Yeah.
it's a major transformation.
So yeah, so like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still drink, but I'm drinking out of a very different headspace.
Exactly. You're socially drinking.
Exactly.
Right.
So like, and to be fair, like, I used to drink, like, if I would go out to any social occasion whatsoever, like, I drank. I had so much social anxiety. It was the only thing that I'd ever self-taught myself to deal with that. Now I'm actively going out and being social and not drinking, just to train myself to remember what it's like and to be able to be in those situations and start to slowly feel comfortable within myself. So there's a big difference. I mean, just getting rid of one seriously toxic element in my life, I've dropped 40 pounds in weight, honestly, without putting much effort into it at all.
Well, I think you are, but you're not even noticing
Yeah,
the effort.
yeah,
Because
maybe.
you started running.
I started running, but I only ran for like a month. I haven't ran in forever.
Okay.
So like I was running a lot, but I think a lot of that was, um, I was still looking for something. So like the relationship ended, and I felt better. I felt relief, but it was almost like a borderline manic state. Like it was such a hard switch from
Yeah.
being so trapped, so confined, to all this freedom.
And keep in mind, they were living together.
Yes, we were living together. We had been dating for 7 years. To
And
get
sorry to interrupt, but I want to preface this also by I asked Sean when did he know that it wasn't going to work out, and do you want to answer without spitting out your water?
I believe my answer was like a year in.
No,
or
you said
6 months. 6 months. 6 months. Yeah, it was 6 months in.
So he knew 6 months in and proceeded for the 6.5 years after.
Yeah, 6.5 years. Almost 7 years. No, just over 7 years, I think. 3 breakups. Got back together 3 times.
'Cause it's gonna
Not
work
this
this
time. Not this time. Yeah, so it was a long road, and I mean, the interesting part about it is, I still say that she is a great person. Like I can still honestly say that she's a great person, but together as in a relationship, it's a toxic combination. It just doesn't work. Yeah, it's just not something that I hope to ever pursue again. So it is what it is. Yeah, but 6 months into that relationship, I honestly told myself that this was not going to go anywhere.
And you checked out.
I checked out. Yeah, I think
several times.
Like seriously checked out. Like I have memory lapses where I like honestly the last 4 years pre-breakup, like I don't remember very much.
I think a lot of people do that.
Yeah, and I mean, I was there for everything, but consciously, like I was gone.
Yeah,
I was
autopilot.
Gone. Autopilot. Get up every day, go to work, come home, say what I had to say, eat dinner, go to bed, on repeat.
And then look what happens. Your job becomes harder to go to.
Oh, my job was, I was lashing out at work. I was becoming aggressive at work. People were scared to approach me with simple things because it was made into a much bigger deal than it would have been. Borderline asking to be let go, just out of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, work has now. I'm in the midst of pursuing avenues for a career change for sure. I think work is still a little bit toxic to me just because I don't feel like I should be there anymore. I'm kind of over that phase of my life, and I'm looking for a new career path. But that being said, my work life is significantly better now that my home life is better.
Well, even talk about like your father and your brother noticing.
Yeah, so I had a lot of people that were close to me notice significant changes, and like pretty quickly after we really started to move forward. I saw my chiropractor for the first time in a couple months after one of the lockdowns, and she told me my posture was different, a whole bunch of stuff, and she literally stopped me in my tracks and asked, like, what did you do? Like, what changed? So it just goes to show you what stress and depression can do to your body, your mental state, like everything. Like it's unbelievable the amount of negative side effects, and people just keep getting up every day and following the same footsteps they did yesterday and not actively trying to change or grow. Now I'd like to say very dedicated to the idea of personal growth. If I notice something that triggers me, I stop before I get to that point, and I like to be able to step back and analyze the situation and be like, why is this triggering? Is it something that is triggering me because of an insecurity I have that I didn't even know was relevant?
Right.
Or is somebody actually trying to be, negative towards me? Like, what's the situation? Like, what's the breakdown? Because when most people fly off the handle, like, it's more of a reflection of who they are as a person and what they're going through than the environment they're in.
Right.
So, yeah, it's an interesting new way of pursuing things.
Well, we're going to stop soon because we're not going to run on, but this is the introduction to the series of podcasts that we're trying to bring forward to normalize again getting therapy, or men especially, because I think women, we like to talk, or they say we like to talk.
I mean, I was brought up in a house full of, big, strong construction workers. I mean, we're iron workers, so like we're kind of badass.
Right.
And it's not that my parents ever frowned upon talking about your feelings.
So you're like, wait, is it like a Tony Soprano?
Yeah, a little
getting
bit.
therapy?
I mean, like a little bit.
Low?
Yeah, like, and it's one of those things where it's just like it was never frowned upon, but like honestly, genuinely being able to express yourself was never really taught.
Exactly, and
And
I think a lot of households are like that, regardless of the background. I was raised pretty much like that. Like you're stoic.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just get on with it.
And I was surrounded by a bunch of alpha males, and from a very young age, I wanted to be a part of that club. So it's just like, okay, well, let's do what we have to do to get there. And then once you get to the destination, you realize the resort's old and broken down, and it's gonna be a horrible vacation.
And we could also quickly talk about how much you were attracting after you told people you were in therapy.
Yeah. So I noticed a lot of people that were very interested in pursuing or starting a relationship with me after they realized that I was in therapy. I'm not gonna lie, it was staggering and shocking. It wasn't expected. Yeah, we'll get more into that later, maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of men want to know about that. Okay, well, thanks for listening, and this is the intro. I hope we have a lot of subscribers and listeners, and thanks for telling your story.
Yeah, no problem.
It took a lot of courage for that.
Hopefully we'll be back here soon. And
yep, now that we're opening up.
Yeah, exactly.
We can literally take that literal.
Yeah.